How you doing, Professor Lee? This is my project two rationale. Um, Started off with a rhetorical objective. Which rhetorician did you cover and why? I covered Peter Ramus just because he's a bit like me. I don't necessarily agree with all of his ideas, or even most of them, but I like that he's a smartass, and b, he wasn't willing to conform to older in place ideals just because they were older and in place ideals. I provided a biography for the rhetorician. I explained the context that he used, what he, how he hated Quintilian and Aristotle, and he had contempt for him and their ideas, and how he believed that rhetoric and philosophy should be split. I covered his epistemology. I covered how he viewed rhetoric. I used a couple of examples from his articles in Rhetoric Against Quintilian to make my points in the middle of the video. I used all of the discussions in class that we used because I figured that was very important to what it was, and it was also in the biography that I took from the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. Um, so I used most of that there, and then I also went and looked at the articles in Rhetoric Against Quintilian again, and took the defining points there, the ones that you mentioned in class, and expanded on them. As for how my text satisfies the rhetorical objective to explain a particular rhetorician to the audience, EWM majors, I feel like I did a very good job there. In my first video, I took the very beginning and explained, about epistemologies and rhetoric before that, and I referenced that in my second video. And I've also included a link to my first video in my second video's little chat box belowhand. I'm gonna include the video to the second and the first so that they're able to go back and easily see one and the other if they weren't able to get the ideas. I wanted to continue to use video as I did with Project 1. I feel like it's the best way to reach a student. Students are continually on YouTube, and I watch YouTube videos 3 to 4 times a day. So it's, most students continually watch YouTube videos, so I figured it was the best way to reach the audience that I was trying to get to. I also included an audio clip when Vizzini is doing the Battle of Wills with Wesley, and he talks about how Plato, Aristotle, and Socrates are morons. And I thought that was pretty funny, and I also thought that it coincided well with with the idea of Ramus. So I concluded the video with that, and I thought it was pretty funny and a fitting ending. I feel like I gained credible ethos when I used and quoted the arguments in Rhetoric Against Quintilian from Ramus with what his ideas actually were. It's a direct reference to Ramus's works, so you can't really get any more credible than the source that you're covering. As for what genre I used, again, it's the YouTube video. I feel like this is the best way to do it. The type of identity that you have to adopt when you're doing a video is a lot different from what you do when you're putting something in writing. When you put something in writing, you have the chance to edit it and and make it better. But when you take a video, if you screw something up, you have to start all over. So it's a lot harder, and I feel like it's a lot more time consuming, but it's also better because you get to see the author or the person on video, how they actually respond to something. As for the arrangement, I started with the overarching goals, like what an epistemology was. Then I moved into Ramus's background, and then I moved into Ramus's views on rhetoric. I feel that that is probably the best way to go about this, because it gives an idea of what the overarching goals of the class would be, and then it tells you a little bit about him and what shaped his ideas, and then you go into the ideas. So I feel like that was the best way to do that. Again, I started with a title. This time it was the Not Ancient Greek Epistemology Show, which is in reference to my first project, which was the Ancient Greek Epistemology Show, which did the Sophists and Aristotle and Plato. But I wanted, as Ramus is not a ancient Greek philosopher, I couldn't use the same title, but I wanted to create a connection between the first two projects. So if any of the people watching it wanted to check out the second, that it would be available to them, and they would they would be able to see the similarities between the two. I did forecast my what I was going to do as far as arrangement. In the beginning, I said and told the people who would watch my first video to bear with me while I explained some things that were covered in the first video to the people who had not seen the first video. And then I explained that I was going to do the biographical information, and then I explained that I was going to do the his thoughts on rhetoric and such. As for the citation, I included a works cited page at the end of the video that included the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy and Ramus's articles in Rhetoric against Quintilian. And then I also cited the Princess Bride for the audio that I used. That's pretty much it, but as an aside, I would just like to tell you that I thoroughly enjoyed your class. It was it's my first class at Florida State. This was my first semester here, and it was everything that I could have hoped for. I want to say thank you. I really enjoyed your teaching style, and I hope that you will teach some of my classes in the future. Thanks.